Previously, I shared the story of how back when I was teaching, I had just given this brilliant exposition of the doctrine of the Trinity, how God could be three persons in one being, when one of my students put her hand up and said, "But Mr. Sweeney, doesn't that mean then that God is schizophrenic?" The doctrine of the Trinity is the most important doctrine of Christian faith. It's about who God is in himself, his very being, his essence. And yet at the heart of this doctrine, which stands at the heart of Christian faith, there is a fundamental contradiction. How can God be three persons, yet one God? No matter how you slice it, the math doesn't work. Three never equals one. On top of that, as the other great monotheistic religions point out, Judaism and Islam, the doctrine of the Trinity smacks of polytheism, belief not in one God, but in three. Of course, our major problem in understanding the Trinity is that our instinct, our nature is to be competitive. We because of our ego and pride, see and experience all kinds of jealousies and rivalries and divisions in the relationships around us, even at times some of the best relationships around us. So we simply project that onto the Trinity. We think of the Trinity more like the gods of Greek mythology, who are always involved in some kind of power play, trying to usurp one another's power and steal the glory for themselves. But that's not the way it works with God. I was watching this year's U.S. Open, and Bruce Koepka, who won the previous two U.S. Opens, was in competition to win his third. He didn't end up winning it. But he hit this drive, and as he's walking to hit the next shot down the fairway, all of a sudden he veers off the fairway into the crowds, and he runs up into this vast throng of crowds, the galley, and hugs this older gentleman. I'm thinking, what is he doing? At that point, the commentator pipes in and explains that that's his dad, and then begins to tell the story of his father. His father loved to watch Brooks play as a kid, and he supported him in everything he wanted to do. He'd buy him his equipment, his golf clubs, take him to tournaments, certainly go to the tournaments and cheer him on. But his dad really didn't think he was that good. I mean, he thought he might end up being a good high school player, maybe even college, but no way he's going to the pros. And certainly he's never going to win a major championship like the US Open. So in 2017, when Brooks actually did win that major, the greatest achievement of his golfing career, his dad was overjoyed. He was beaming with pride. It would be ludicrous to suggest that his father grew jealous seeing his son get all the glory and the adulation. It would be ludicrous to suggest that his father now hatched a plan to sabotage his son's golf career, like he kicked the balls out of bounds when he was going to watch him at tournaments. A father's greatest delight is to see his son get all this glory and adulation. That gives a father the greatest of joy. Philippians chapter 2, verse 11 talks about how at the end of the world, Jesus is going to get all the worship. Every creature, every being is going to worship Jesus. It says that every knee shall bow, every tongue confess on the earth, in the heavens, and under the earth, that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. But notice what that verse doesn't say. It doesn't say that the Father, seeing that Jesus was getting all the attention, grew jealous. It doesn't say that the Father, seeing that Jesus was being worshiped by all of creation, hatched a plan to take the spotlight off of him, to steal his show and get the focus on himself. No, it says that all this worship and adulation Jesus was getting was to the glory of God the Father. The Father, in other words, God the Father, delighted in seeing his Son glorified in this way. That's the way it works with the Trinity. Each member is so focused on the other in perfect love, so focused on the other, that their purest, truest joy is seeing the other one exalted. And that's why, even though the Trinity as God shares in the unlimited, infinite power and knowledge, all those attributes that God has, there's never a chance, there's no chance of there ever being a rivalry or jealousy or division within the Trinity. They are always going to act in a perfect unity, in perfect harmony. They always act as one, with a singular will and a singular purpose. The Trinity at some level is always going to be mind-blowing. We're never going to be able to wrap our minds around how God could be three persons, yet one being, one God. As explained in last week's blog, that's actually a good thing, because if we're talking about the infinite nature of a transcendent God, we would never be able to fully wrap our minds around it. But there are some analogies in our experience that help us understand how the three could become one, be one. In Genesis, the first book of the Bible, it talks about how God created human beings male and female, so that in the ideal, an ideal we never really achieve, but in the ideal, the two can become one. It doesn't mean that the two individual persons now become a third person, a new person. It's talking about how two people who retain their individuality become one in the bond of love. When I was a kid and I would ask my mother for something and she'd say no, I immediately go to my father, try to divide and conquer, hope that he would say yes. To my great frustration, he never did. They always acted with a unified front. You may know people who've been together so long that they can finish each other's thoughts, finish each other's sentences. It's quite annoying. But despite the fact that it might be frustrating or annoying, these two examples give us a tiny glimpse into how the three members of the Trinity could become one. We can see on a human level how in fleeting moments, two people can act in a unity, a kind of singularity. That helps us to understand how the Trinity, who loves each other perfectly, consistently at all times, could form a perfect unity in their bond of perfect love. In future blogs, I'll show how with advances or new revelations from sociology and anthropology and even modern physics, showing us what our reality, the created reality, is really all about, that these advances are showing that it makes the most sense to think of God, the one responsible for this reality, to think of God as a Trinity. But for now, rest assured that in the divine economy, the math does work. 3 does equal 1. In the perfect love of the Trinity, there is a perfect unity, a perfect oneness. The Trinity forms a perfect oneness. And the thing that the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit desire most is for us to know their joy, for you to know and experience the divine life, their divine life of perfect love. So do you think that the three persons of the Trinity can become one being, can be a perfect unity? Let me know what you think by going to the Contact EJ page of the Raising Jesus website and leave your comments there. I'd love to hear from you. Also, please like our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and keep telling your friends about us. Thank you.